to Survive and Advance on the Gruely True Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about Replenishing Care, go to thegruelytruth.net, click on the top of the page. I'm your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome my co-host, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing fine today, Mike. Another beautiful day in paradise.
All right, and we have a special guest today as we preview the NBA season. If you all listened in the past to Survive and Advance, you've heard Lukas Weese before. Lukas was suspended for 2 months for conduct unbecoming of an Iditarod spokesman. Lukas, how you doing?
Doing well, Mike. It's great to be back on the show, listening to jokes about the Iditarod, even though it does take place in the U.S. and not Canada. But looking forward to a great show.
Yeah, but see, that's one of the reasons you were suspended, because you're the one that started off acting like it was in Canada. Me and Steve knew all along it was Alaska. And it was just funny that you obviously, when you sent us your resume and said you were the foremost historical person on the Iditarod, you obviously lied.
Clearly.
So just don't let it happen again. All right.
Hey, Mike.
What?
Mike.
What?
I think it was a bunch of mush. mush.
You are so funny, Steven.
Hey, let me tell you something, buddy, about the Iditarod. If you ain't the lead dog, you ain't shit.
All right, we'll clean the language up, or we'll have to suspend you. All right, let's look at the 2018-19 NBA season. We're going to start off in the Eastern Conference with what I think is hands down the best team in the East, maybe the best team in the NBA from top to bottom, the Boston Celtics. And had they not shot 7 for 39 from three-point range in Game 7 on their home floor last year, they may have been in the finals last year. They're adding Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, who were both injured last year, to this. You got 21-year-old Jaylen Brown, 20-year-old Jason Tatum. This team seems like it's only going to get better, Lukas.
Yeah, the Boston Celtics, to me, you're right, Mike. They're the team to beat in the East. I think now with a healthy Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum looked fantastic in the opening game. I think the one question mark for me with Boston is, can Kyrie and Jason Tatum coexist on the same team? If they can, if they just put their egos aside to try and, work towards a common goal and win a championship, it's scary because they can play defense too. And I think when you're looking big picture against the Golden State Warriors, trying to play defense against them is very important. So I think Boston, barring no injuries, if this is the team that they have, they're, to me, the team to beat in the East.
All right, and when I look at this, Steve, when we talk about there's only so many minutes around, you got to assume Marcus Morris and Terry Rozier will see a reduction in playing time and touches. But if there's any coach, I think, equipped to handle this, it's Brad Stevens.
Yeah, well, they definitely have the best coach in the game right now, I believe, the best active coach who's, young and hungry. But I don't know how much playing time will do because, we don't know if they want to stress Gordon Hayward that much. Kyrie Irving's injury prone. This team's going to get hurt throughout the course of the year. Historically, they've had guys sit out. Irving seems to find the reason to sit out every once in a while. I think Rozier and Smart and Morris are going to get plenty of playing time. I think these guys are going to gel together, and I think they're going to be in the finals at the end of the year. I don't think playing time is going to be an issue.
Now, when we look at the teams that could challenge them, I think the Toronto Raptors, they're a team that I think they were the number 1 seed or number 2 seed at least going into last year, if not the number 1. They changed. They fired Coach of the Year, Dwayne Casey. All-Star DeMar DeRozan was traded for Kawhi Leonard. And I'm going to start off with Lukas because I know Lukas is a big Toronto Raptor fan, which is something you can't say about many people we've ever had on the show. I think it's a risk, but I think with DeRozan, they had no shot to go to the NBA Finals. I think with Leonard, there's at least a small, minute possibility.
Kawhi Leonard, I would say, is the best Raptor that we've had as a franchise. I mean, you could make a case Vince Carter, DeMar DeRozan, but Kawhi is 10 times better than DeMar DeRozan ever was. He's a two-way player. former NBA Finals MVP, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. And when you saw that, him last night, he looked great. He got a double-double against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I just think for me with the Raptors is can they play defense? They give up 100 points to a LeBron-less Cleveland Cavaliers. That, to me, is going to be the big question to me for the Raptors going forward, particularly against a team like the Boston Celtics. But not only did they add Kawhi Leonard, Mike, they added Danny Green, who I think is a very underrated player. I really liked how Coach Nick Nurse put Jonas Valanciunas and Pascal Siakam as their starting lineup, more of a bigger lineup inside.
What?
What? Yeah, these are players for the Raptors, Steve.
Well, when Steve used to play, all the players were named Steve, Mike, Bob, Robert, John, so.
No, my wife just turned the lights off on me when I'm doing my radio show in the room.
Oh, yeah,
She's darkened the room and told me, it's like, Kim, why'd you turn the lights off? Well, go ahead, I'm back.
Okay.
But anyway, the Raptors are in a good spot, Mike. I think they're a favorite to make the Eastern Conference Final, barring any injuries. You're right. I think this is their best chance to make the NBA Final. But Boston, I just think, is just a little bit better, a little bit more experienced.
Yeah, but the one thing the Raptors do have is a bench. They had one of the best benches in the league last year, Steve. And when you look at it, I think that's why I would give them at least some shot with Boston, because they're one of the few teams in the East or the NBA altogether that has a bench similar to Boston's.
I think they've messed with the chemistry of this team from last year, and I think in the end, well, I know Leonard had a good first game. I think he's going to end up being disruptive on this program and on this team, and probably cause them as much pain as he does joy. They are talented, they are deep, but I just think the chemistry is going to be off on this team. I don't have a good feeling about it. I could see him finishing fourth in the East, truthfully. I think the Sixers and the Celtics, and I'll tell you what, the Pacers are going to surprise a lot of people. They've got good depth and good bench when we get to them. And Toronto is not going to be the class of the East anymore. We'll see. The time will tell. If it falls on Leonard's shoulders as to how he plays, because he is one of the best players they've ever had, but can he play as a team, and was the coaching change in the long run good or bad? And so our jury's out with me on the Raptors.
All right, and that brings us to the next team that I think is in the conversation for the Eastern Conference, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers, with a starting lineup that includes four guys: Ben Simmons, Robert Covington, Dario Saric, and Joel Embiid, that are 6'9" and taller. They're going to be a good defensive team, Steve. The question with them will come offensively.
Well, yeah, they're inconsistent. I mean, Embiid and Simmons are hot and cold. Redick coming off his best season. He averaged over 17 points a game last year. But whether they can consistently put it up, they didn't show it against Boston in the opening night. And I question their depth on the bench as well, too. I don't think they have quite the bench depth that either Toronto or the Boston Celtics have. So, yeah, offensive output with consistently coming into it is going to be the big key for this team.
Yeah, and when I look at this, Lucas, I see a contrast in styles with this team where you've got guys like Ben Simmons that, wants to play fast, but you've got Embiid in the post, which means you want to play deliberately. And I think if they could combine that and make it work, I think they've got a shot.
Well, for sure. But that's the big question mark is, can they combine that? They're a talented team. They're going to be in the mix. But Joel Embiid said after the opening night, Boston always beats us. So I think they need to get over that hump, that mental hump somehow, to try to, work together as a team and beat the Boston Celtics, because it seems like that team is their Achilles heel, and they haven't had, a lot of success recently against them. So I think they're gonna win a lot of games. Philly fans are gonna be excited for them, but I think there's question marks. And Steve was right with his point about the bench depth. I don't think their bench matches up with Toronto or Boston.
All right, and we're going to touch on the rest of the Atlantic Division now. I'll just give you each one team. And we're going to start off with Steve with the New York Knicks. And I think what you see here is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 5 years. I think it's likely to reach 6 years. Kristaps Porzingis suffered a torn ACL in early February. He's going to be out for at least some of the season. They got a new coach in David Fizdale. They drafted Kevin Knox, Mitchell Robinson in the draft, and as Cantor exercised his $18 million option to stay another year. I think the Knicks seem to constantly, every year, be rebuilding, Steve.
Yeah, their ownership and front office management just doesn't seem to get it, and they don't seem to be able to make the plays to get the players in there. For New York and the attractiveness of playing in New York, and the lure of the extra money for playing in that city is amazing. They can't get better players. But, I'm looking at Tim Hardaway Jr. as maybe one of the most recognizable players that they've got on the team, if not the best. Trey Burke, we'll see what he can do as a freshman or a rookie. I don't see anything out of the Knicks this year at all. I mean, yeah, it's just going to be another team that will get beat up on most of the season.
All right, Lucas, it brings us to the Brooklyn Nets, another team that over the last 2 seasons, I think, under the leadership of Sean Marks and Kenny Atkinson, I think the Nets have done the right things to recover as best they can from the 2013 trade that stripped them of pretty much all their draft picks. They've been patient. They've drafted well with selections in the 20s. What's your take on the Nets for this season?
I think they're still a long way to go. They'll miss the playoffs. They'll have a better season maybe than last year, but I don't really expect much from them. I still think they need a few more, high draft picks for them to be competitive. But yeah, I don't really see much from them this season. I say they miss the playoffs. They'll finish about 11th or 12th in the East.
Yeah, and when you look at this, when it takes to the Central, I think we all agree that the Boston Celtics are going to win the Atlantic, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And, the problem with teams like the Knicks and the Nets are there are other teams in this division that are just elevating themselves faster, and they're going to get ahead of them, like the Pacers or like Milwaukee. 2 programs that are probably now just absolutely just bypassed them, and they're going to keep the Nets and the Knicks down in the bottom cellar of this division or conference, the Eastern Conference. So it's not a question even of as Lucas said, they're getting better, possibly to some degree, but not nearly at the rate that the other teams are. I mean, Philadelphia's definitely improved its game. Boston's at full strength. Toronto remains to be seen. In paper, they made great moves, but teams like the Knicks and the Nets are just going to end up languishing just by the fact that they just haven't improved as much as other teams in the Eastern Conference have.
All right, let's go to the Central Division where, to me, I think the Indiana Pacers are the best team in the Central, not just because I'm a Pacers fan, but they had a great season last year that came kind of out of nowhere, lost in 7 games to the Cavaliers. They signed 3 veterans, each meant to fill a niche. Tyreek Evans from Memphis, who is a proven scorer, a key 6-man candidate, brought in to take some of the offensive load off of Oladipo. Doug McDermott, who is a shooter, is yet to find his way in the NBA after stints with 4 different teams. And then Kyle Quinn, who is a strong man, who I think is built to play underneath, be a banger, kind of an enforcer. What's your take on the Pacers, Lucas?
They're a team that no one wants to face in the first round, or even the second round, mind you, because I think they're a pesky team. They can play. They can score. You said it. I mean, they took Cleveland to 7 games. I think they could have, should have won that series. They weren't for bad referee, but that's a whole other discussion. But yeah, I mean, Indiana, solid team, and they're to me a dark horse in the Eastern Conference to maybe spoil the party of the top 3, or the Bostons, the Phillies, the Torontos of the world.
Yeah, and I think this, Steve, I think they could win the Eastern Conference, but I think a lot of that's going to depend on Miles Turner. I think if he hits his stride, I think this team could be really good. And the other one is Tyreek Evans, who I think could be the good Lance Stevenson on this team. He has a more proven track record as a reliable offensive threat. He's not going to do as many stupid things as Lance Stevenson did. And I think if those two have big seasons, the Pacers could challenge the Celtics.
No doubt. I really like Bogdanovic and Sabonis because they're the European players, and I think that the game's moving toward that European style of basketball, which is more of the kind of the run and shoot off the run type of style of play with a more fast-paced game. And they've got two pretty good solid players right there. Both of them made big contributions in the Pacers' first win. Tyreke Evans, good. I think the Pacers bench is fairly strong. They got Turner signed to a new contract, so he's going to settle in and be happy. Top to bottom, I see this as kind of a collection of really good players. Now, if their coach can get them to gel like Stevens can do with the Celtics, then I think they're going to be really a threat. But I agree with Lucas. They're definitely not somebody you want to face in the first round, and you probably don't want to see them in the second round. And if they can stay healthy and they can continue to improve and gel together, they can run the conference championship on the East Coast.
And I think the biggest challenge to the Pacers here will be the Milwaukee Bucks, who are a team I don't think played up to their capabilities last year. They did give Boston all they could handle in the playoffs. And I think the biggest personnel move that they made was hiring a new coach to get Jason Kidd out of there. And Budenholzer, I think, was a good coach with the Hawks from 2013 to 18. And I think with him, Lucas, I think what you're going to see is more of an emphasis on defense, which this team is already a good offensive team. And if they can pick up the defensive side of the ball, I think they can challenge.
Oh, for sure. I mean, hopefully Altner, utilizes the Greek freak to not only play offense, but play, solid defense. Because I think Milwaukee's another team that you don't want to face in the first round because they have a lot of talented players, and they're just pesky. I mean, as a Raptors fan, I would not want to draw Milwaukee in the first round because, trying to, handle the Greek freak, their other players, it's going to be a challenge. And I think they could easily take one of the top three teams in the East to 6 or 7 games in the opening round. So don't shy away from Milwaukee. They're a good team, and I agree with you, Mike. Jason Kidd, not really, not the best coach in the world. And I think having a new voice in there to get the guys motivated to hopefully improve and have a good season.
Yeah, and Steve, I think with the Bucks, the man on the spot has to be Eric Bledsoe. I think his reputation and his future's on the line this season. I think defensively he's a disruptor. Offensively, he's a scorer more than a playmaker, and the latter will be essential in Budenholzer's system.
Yeah, I agree.
A man of few words. All right.
Man of few words.
Let's talk a little bit about
I think the Bucks are going to be like the Pacers. They're going to be a very dangerous team to play on any given night. And with a few good breaks throughout the course of the season, they're going to contend for as much as anybody else is if they stay healthy and things go their way.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you didn't hear, Steve, they lost LeBron James.
No.
Kevin Love, I guess, becomes the go-to guy here. They grabbed Colin Sexton out of Alabama with the number 8 pick in the draft. Very extremely confident, gifted point guard. What's your take on Cleveland? Any shot to make the playoffs, or is this just going to be like before? Because the biggest problem I see is they lost their head coach, LeBron James, and now Tyronn Lue's in charge.
Well, actually, they don't have a lack of talent. I mean, Kyle Korver's one of the best shooters in the game. Larry Nance is a strong secondary player off the bench. J.R. Smith's capable. Tristan Thompson, hot and cold. I mean, they've got named players. It's going to be kind of interesting to see how this team gels without LeBron. They may turn out to be a better team without LeBron, not just a team that has LeBron and became great because they had LeBron. I think they're going to be at the bottom. I just don't think you can build a team around Kevin Love and expect it to contend for a winning record or playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see because this team is not lacking. It's not the weakest team in the NBA by far talent-wise. And I'm going to have fun watching them play this year and see if there is a difference. I don't know what the coaching situation is there because like you said, they lost their coach. So I don't know what kind of coaching they're going to get. for this team. But I predict they're going to be at the bottom. They're not going to make the playoffs. But this is a team that these guys can find a way to get together and overcome the 25 points LeBron was giving you a game, 30 points a game, and fix it up in other places. They've got the depth to be contenders or disrupt things on any given night.
Yeah, and that brings us to Detroit, which I think is a really interesting team. I think they're better than Cleveland, Lucas. And if you look at it, they brought in last year's Coach of the Year, Dwayne Casey, to replace Stan Van Gundy. You got Blake Griffith and Andre Drummond, all of whom will play pivotal roles for a squad that's trying to reach the playoffs for only the second time in a decade. Where do you think the Pistons stand in all this?
I think the Pistons make the playoffs, but I think they'll be 7th or 8th seed. I think getting Dwayne Casey is a great move. I was one of the few people that didn't have really a problem with Dwayne Casey. He was great in Toronto. Last year, he'd say Coach of the Year, and I think he brings a mentality that can playoff experience, and I think that for a team trying to get back to the postseason, I think it's really important for them. But I don't think they're at the level of Pacers, Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Sixers. I think that they'll make the playoffs. I think it'll be kind of a struggle all year long. They'll kind of be on the bubble. I think Cleveland's the same way. I think Cleveland, will be a bubble team too. But I just think the Pistons are a little bit better, and I think they make the playoffs, lose in the first round.
All right, next up, the Chicago Bulls, Steve. And ever since Michael Jordan left and D. Rose started getting hurt all the time, I think Chicago could be last in this division.
Yeah, looking at their roster, I don't see anybody that piques my interest at all on this team, or any kind of talent. I think they can get them anything but last place. I think they're the doormat of the Eastern Conference at this point in time, and I don't even know half the players that are on their roster. Truthfully, Jabari Parker, probably their best known player, but I don't see anything coming out of Chicago again this year at all.
All right, guys, so are we all in agreement with the Pacers here?
What about the Pacers?
To win the division.
Well, winning the Central? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I say Pacers or Bucks. I mean, I give the edge to the Pacers probably because I'm a Pacers fan like you, but I'm not going to discount Milwaukee as being a strong team. They were good last year.
All right, that brings us to the NBA Southeast Division, which I don't know. We'll just talk about the teams and see what happens because I don't know if there's a clear-cut favorite here or not. John Wall and Bradley Beal, the Washington Wizards. I mean, I think the Wizards are a talented team that I don't think have ever really played up consistently to what they should be, Lucas. But I think the one thing that stands out to me this year is I think there's a stronger bench in D.C.
I agree. I mean, the Raptors have faced Washington now a couple of years in the postseason, and they're always a tough out. I mean, they always gave the Raptors fits with their defense, and somehow John Wall and Bradley Beal wake up and make shots when in the regular season they don't. I think the Wizards will win the division. I think it'll be a battle between them and the Miami Heat all year long. But I think the Wizards squeak it out because I think they have more talent. And I think they're, again, a team that with their defense, they don't, a team that you don't want to play in the postseason and that could take you to, 6 or 7 games because they're talented and well coached.
Yeah, and I think the biggest question, the big guy in the spot here has got to be Dwight Howard and whether he can get this team over to Schneid in the playoffs, Steve.
Yeah. But he's 32 years old. We'll see. The thing I like about Washington is that they are a relatively young team. Young teams tend to play hard. You got Dwight at 32, but for the most part, you've got everybody else who's making contributions pretty much 25 or under. And teams like that have a little bit more stamina, and they go at it harder day in and day out. I think that the Wizards are going to give you a game every time you play them. We'll just see if they have enough talent to compete with the rest of the teams in the Eastern Conference.
And that brings us to the Miami Heat. And we got another big guy here, Hassan Whiteside. I think he is the key here to Dwayne Wade having a successful final season, Steve.
Yeah, I got to get to the Miami Heat.
Oh, you're supposed to know this stuff, Steve.
I don't know this stuff. I'm not going to know this stuff.
Oh,
You're getting
man.
exposed.
I'll tell you
You want
what.
me to talk about the Heat? I kind of.
Yeah,
Talk about the Heat.
When I look at the Heat outside of Whiteside, I think a guy who's poised to have a huge season is James Johnson, Lucas.
Yeah, James Johnson. He's he's a player I think that could really step up and have a big year. I mean, I think the Heat, they'll challenge the Wizards all year long. They also, Gordon Dragic is still there. He's a good player. And yeah, I think they're a solid team, but again, like the Wizards, they have some question marks. And I think for the Heat, they'll make the playoffs, but again, they'll be one of the bottom seeds, probably lose the first round, just because the teams at the top are just too good.
All right, next up we got the Charlotte Hornets. Steve, are you prepared to talk about the Charlotte Hornets?
I'm prepared to talk about the Charlotte Hornets.
All right, didn't talk about them.
All right, Charlotte Hornets probably one of the more improved teams. They're picking up Kemba Walker, Nicholas Batum, Cody Zeller coming on, keeps playing better and better every year, averaging in double figures now. Got Tony Parker coming off the bench. I think Charlotte's going to make a step up and be in the hunt. They look good offensively. They've got some decent depth. Miles Bridges coming in off the bench as well. They drafted well. I see an improved team. Nothing that's probably going to compete for the top spot, but just a team that's going to be better this year than they were last year.
Yeah, and that brings us to the Orlando Magic. We're going to go to you on this, Lucas. And I think with the Magic, they're in a never-ending search for the right guard combination, especially at point guard.
Yeah.
They signed Jerry and Grant from Chicago to a multi-year deal and also saw them get Timothy Mozgov. What do you think? Does that solve it? I don't see how that solves the issue.
No. The Orlando Magic are the Sacramento Kings of the East. I think they're a franchise, trying to find the right answers, but just can't seem to get anything right. I think they're in the fight for them being competitive this year or in the near future. Sorry, Orlando. But
all right.
This year.
Next up, the Atlanta Hawks. And I think the Hawks are, they're selling their future to their fans. And I think the future could be all right. You got Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, and Amari Spellman. What's your take on this team, Steve?
Young, very young team on the move upward. Jeremy Lin's still in the league. How about that? I was wondering what happened to him. He's with Atlanta now. When did he go to Atlanta?
The things you learn when you read, Steve.
Wow. Yeah, I think Atlanta's. I haven't followed this conference very closely. I have not been too interested in this conference. I've been more worried about.
You mean that division? That
division, the West Coast teams. I don't know much about the Hawks, truthfully, honestly. They drafted well.
Yeah, I think they drafted well, Lucas, and I think this is a team that could see a significant turnaround and win 30 games, 35 games this year.
I think so. I think Atlanta is much improved. I really like the look of Trae Young. The play, shooter who I think is, and yeah,
All right, your phone's breaking up pretty bad, Lucas. We're going to move to the Western Conference, and we're going to start off with the Houston Rockets. You got James Harden, you got Chris Paul. Paul was injured, or they may have taken down Golden State last year, Steve. But they've lost some players that were a big deal here. And I think they've got issues because I think the man on the spot here is Carmelo Anthony, 34 years old. He's got to get it done this year, I think, for the Rockets to challenge the Warriors.
Yeah, and Carmelo's definitely the key to this team, and I'm still not told it was a good move or not. Carmelo has always just been kind of a self-centered player to some degree, and I thought that the Houston Rockets had good chemistry last year and possibly could have been a healthy team, could have given Golden State a run for its money. So it'd be interesting to see what Carmelo brings to this team, if it's good or bad. I noticed that he did not start in the first game. He's coming in, and Houston did lose their first game. And Carmelo was kind of relegated to being a sixth man. We'll see how he lives with that and takes that for the whole entire season, or if he pushes his way into the starting lineup. But Carmelo, I think, is the key to the chemistry of this team. The chemistry is how the Houston Rockets are going to beat Golden State Warriors, because they're not going to out-talent them.
Yeah,
and it's going to be tough to out-chemistry him too, because Golden State's chemistry is held together much better than I ever thought it would, given the amount of superstars they've got on that team.
Well, and when I look at this, Lucas, I think Houston is a team that has gotten worse, and Golden State may have gotten better in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, Golden State, I can't see how you can bet against them. They had DeMarcus, they're a good team. And I think, though, that the dynasty of Golden State is going to be short-lived. I think this is going to be maybe their last year or maybe next year, where we see the big four, now the big five, and when you had DeMarcus Cousins in there. But Golden State's just too good. I mean, they beat Oklahoma City opening night. Steph Curry, quiet 32 points. He doesn't play well. Oh, Kevin Durant's going to have a big night. So they're just too good, in my opinion. And for the West, I don't see Houston with their current guys, beating Golden State. And I think that Carmelo Anthony's going to be a problem for Houston, especially, early on you're hearing, that he doesn't want to play on the bench. I hope he accepts that role and puts his ego aside. But if he doesn't, I think it's going to be problems for Houston.
All right, let's go to the New Orleans Pelicans, who I think are a good team. You've got Anthony Davis, which is a big man in the middle. They benefited from the Lakers' financial house cleaning as they grabbed free agent forward Julius Randle. Julio Okafor, a former third-round pick overall, inked a free agent deal also. And the guy that's interesting to me is Elfrid Payton, who brings youth to the point guard spot, Lucas. I think this is a definite playoff team, and I think this is a team that could maybe be a 4 or 5 seed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they just destroyed the Rockets last night. I like it. Anthony Davis is one of my favorite players in the league. He's just a beast. I mean, he's a beast defensively. He's great inside. And I think in the Western Conference, the Pelicans are a team that you don't want to face early on, because I think they're much improved than from last year. And I think that they're a solid team, and they're going to be fun to watch this year to see how they improve and compete with the top teams in the West.
Yeah, and I think this compete with the top teams in the West. I could actually see them winning this division. The problem is last year they ranked 14th in defensive rating at 105.6 points allowed per 100 possessions. That has to improve, because last year their best D, I think, consisted of getting beat on the perimeter and then Anthony Davis bailing them out, Steve.
Yeah. Hang on here. Yeah, they've got to improve their defensive play, there's no doubt. But they were a team last year that was a threat to anybody. I mean, nobody seemed to want to play them. So they've added some strength. They're a little bit better. And I agree with you. They're just going to be kind of a team that's going to go 4th or 5th in the ranking, in the seeding possibly, and make a run. But I don't think they're going to get much farther than the second round of the playoffs.
All right, that brings us to the San Antonio Spurs. They got DeMar DeRozan. They got LaMarcus Aldridge. When you look at this team, I think the big question, Lucas, is Derek White ready? And is this the year that they finally are not that good of a defensive basketball team because they're always in the top 5, and I don't think they have the players to do that anymore.
No, I think Kawhi Leonard was their last defensive hope. But this is a team that's going to give up a lot of points, which is rare to see for a San Antonio Spurs team. I think DeMar DeRozan, he had a great opening game last night. I think he's on a mission to prove that, he's still a good player. I think the Spurs will make the playoffs, but I think they're losing first round because I still think they have the pieces right now to really make a deep playoff run. But, with Greg Popovich, who knows, right?
I don't agree with that. He's overrated. Go ahead, though.
Well, you can disagree all you want, but he has more championships than you have. So, but anyway.
How many has he got? How many has he got?
5.
I got 6. Steve can verify that. It's just a different sport. Steve, do you think this is the year that the Spurs miss the playoffs? They are all verifiable, too, Lucas.
The year they missed the playoffs?
Yeah. Do you think they missed the playoffs?
I think they're a very old basketball team. Their average age has got to be 28, 29, 30 years old. You got Paul Gasol at 38? Your starting center. I think the age, I don't think they can withstand an entire season at the level that the younger teams are going to come in and play. I think they're getting toward a transition and a total rebuilding of their program. They've continued to lose good players, and they haven't drafted in top talent coming in or brought them in yet. They have a large salary cap. They're paying a lot of people, older players who aren't producing as well as they used to, a lot of money. I think this could be a year San Antonio just does not make the playoffs. That's a good, but like I said, I know you don't like Popovich, but he still is one of the best coaches in the NBA. He's one of the most revered. He has won 5 championships with them.
What's revered? What's revered mean?
Revered means well-liked, respected.
You mean revered?
Revered, I guess. Revered.
Revered.
It's revered. I'm sorry. Revered. Okay. We're going to start quoting everybody on grammar now, right, Trailer Park Boy?
Well, you know what? Yeah, we are.
Okay. Very good.
I have been all along. Yeah. It's just you're the only person I ever have to correct because we're revered.
Revered. My apologies to everybody who is listening.
Well, you could have some kids out there listening that are impressionable, and they're going to go back and look at their mom and dad and say, "Mom or Dad, I revered you."
Revered you, yes. Okay. Thank you for the.
Revered would be the proper way to say it. It's just, I'm telling you, Steve, it's just sad. Lucas has seen how you spell. Now you can't talk. Go ahead.
I think San Antonio is trending downward, not upward, and continues to lose its grip and strength of the West, out West, and will have to do some strong retooling of players and talent and start moving older players out, bringing younger talent in, start the rebuilding process, as have other teams in the East and in the West that are doing right now. I think Dallas is in the same boat as is San Antonio to a degree. But you keep relying on these old players to keep doing what they did when they were young players, and you're going to end up with losing records and not making the playoffs, and probably a lot more injuries as well.
Well, I think this. When you look at the Dallas Mavericks, you brought them up, and Lucas, I think they may not be near as good as the Spurs this year, but I think for the future going forward, regard Dennis Smith, all rookie second-teamer last year, and Harrison Barnes. They added Luka Doncic, which I know you really like, and now center DeAndre Jordan. This is a team, I think, they're not going to win a lot more games than last year, but I think they're 1 or 2 good off seasons away from being a playoff contender again.
Oh, for sure. I think they're trending upward. They'll miss the playoffs, but they're going to be a tough, team to face, night in, night out. I think they're going to really hustle. They'll compete. And, I think Dallas, the playoff days of old with Dirk Nowitzki are soon to become a reality. So not too long for them before they make some noise in the West.
All right, and that brings us to the Memphis Grizzlies. And if you watched them last night, I know it was 86-61 at one point. I don't know what the final score was, but I think it's one of the worst teams in the NBA, Steve.
Yeah, that's a team. I can't figure that out. That team can't. They've been the worst team in the one of the worst teams in the NBA for as long as I can remember. They don't look good. I mean, yeah.
All right, that was
don't have
very
much else
eloquently put, Steve. I remember you with the way you put that. So in the Southwest Division, who do you got, Lucas?
The Southwest Division.
Yeah.
I have the Pelicans.
I agree with you, Steve.
I'm going to stay with Houston.
All right, so the only one of us wrong here is Steve.
Yeah, possibly. I think Carmelo I'm hoping he wants to win a ring, and I think it's his best shot to get it done. So I'm hoping he fits into the mold. If he doesn't fit into the mold, I think Houston's terminal in terms of making a run for a championship. And they won't be as good a team as they were last year. But if he'll step up and play the way he's capable of playing with a team put in front of himself, I think they become a very formidable opponent. But I think the West is so one-sided anyway. I don't think it really matters what all the rest of the teams in the West do. I don't think anybody's going to touch Golden State.
All right, now we go to the Northwest Division. You notice all Steve had to do was say two words, and he did, and he carried on for 5 minutes. In the Northwest Division, we're going to start off with the Utah Jazz, who were a team that started off 19-28 last year, out of the Western Conference playoff mix. From there, they won 29 of their 39 next 35 games to reach the playoffs. Not bad for a team that lost its top scorer, Gordon Hayward, in free agency a few months earlier. Rookie Donovan Mitchell played off the charts last year in his playoff run, along with key Defensive Player of the Year, Rudy Gobert. And I think this is one of the few teams that at least could take a game or two from Golden State in a playoff situation, Lucas.
Absolutely. I think Utah is an exciting team to watch. Donovan Mitchell, I think, should have been the Rookie of the Year because he was incredible down the stretch and even in the postseason. And don't forget, they have Ricky Rubio, they have Jay Crowder. This is a good team, and I think that they're going to be they're going to be making the most noise this year in the West and trying to dethrone Golden State. They'll fail because they're just not at the level of Golden State, but I think Utah could easily be top 3 in the West this year.
Yeah, I think this is a team, when you look at them last year, the only place they really fell short as a team was their ability to shoot the three. And I think for them to be able to contend with Golden State, they need a guy like Jay Crowder or Ricky Rubio to really step up and be able to put the ball in the hole from deep, Steve.
Yeah, I agree. This is a team built a lot like the Pacers, I think. Young team with good balance across the board. Somebody laughing at me?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. Not yet. Oh, yeah. I think that they're just a few things short. Like I said, perimeter shooting, like you said. Defensively, they seemed real solid. And again, they were a team that were making a lot of noise the second half of the season. They absorbed the loss of Gordon Hayward fairly well, I thought. And I think they've got good, solid depth. They've got good players coming off the bench. And I see them to be a lot like the Pacers, to be just a real team you just got to keep your eye on the whole time because they're always going to be lurking near the top. But again, I keep going back to I don't think anybody's going to touch Golden State.
All right. Now, one team that I think may have the talent to be able to touch them if they mess correctly would be the Oklahoma City Thunder, Steve. And when you look at them, they retained free agent swingman Paul George this past offseason. They managed to trade Carmelo Anthony for a standout guard. Made some other roster bolstering moves also. Former Kia MVP winner Russell Westbrook is still on the team. And I think if this team could mesh together better than what it did last year, OKC, could make a deep run.
But I think they're the second best team in the West. But meshing this team together, I just continue to believe Paul George is just a cancer to any chemistry on any basketball team and refuses to play as a team player. And I think that he's going to hold back this team as he has the Pacers. Look at the changes the Pacers made when they got rid of him by just swapping out him from Oladipo. And I just don't see this team being a threat simply because they're never going to have the chemistry. They've got good bench. They've got talent. They've got as much talent as anybody in the West, short of Golden State. But I just don't see the chemistry there at all for this team.
Well, I think a lot of that chemistry could be solved if they get some separation among their young wing players. You got Alex O'Brien's, Terrence Ferguson. You got like 4 or 5 guys here that all have kind of the same skill set that haven't separated themselves. And if one of these guys could break out and have a big year, I think that could change the way we look at this team completely, Lucas.
For sure. Like you said, I think, then you really kind of put them in the mix for top 3 in the conference, and then maybe trying to compete, with Golden State. But I don't know. I think in that division, it's gonna be a battle. I think you got the Jazz, you got the Thunder.
Yeah, this may be the deepest division in the league.
Probably. Minnesota Timberwolves, I know that they're, lots of drama there, but it's going to be a battle to get one of those top 3 seeds, which, means an easier first-round opponent, which is important for the playoffs.
Yeah, and when we look at that division last year, the Portland Trailblazers surprised everybody by winning it, but then got swept out of the playoffs by the New Orleans Pelicans. I believe it was in the first round. And the big problem here, I think, for Portland, Lucas, is they must replace nearly 20% of its three-point shooting.
Yeah, I think Portland's taking a step back this year. This is a league where, they really rely on the three-point, and now when you don't have that, it's just going to trend downward for your offense. So I think Portland's going to compete for a playoff spot. They'll probably sneak in, but I think they're going to be a 7th or 8th seed. I don't think they're going to be, competing for that division.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem I see with Portland, Steve, outside of losing so much of their three-point shooting, is just the fact that they're not a very deep team.
Yeah, I was looking at their second squad, and they're going to have to rely on their starters to play a lot of minutes, get a lot of the work done for them, not have a lot of bench strength. And I think this team, too, probably took a step backwards instead of a step forward this summer. And I agree with Lucas. I think they'll be in the playoff mix, but not a threat to move beyond the first round, really.
All right. Now, another interesting team, this will show you how good this division is the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I think are a team with a ton of talent. They're a young team. I think the biggest thing that the Wolves are missing right now, Lucas, is a consistent three-point threat.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the Timberwolves. I think what Jimmy Butler was doing, in the preseason, I there's tension with this team, and I think that Jimmy Butler deep down probably wants out of there, but at the same time, he's a good player, and why would you move a really good player when you're in a position to make the playoffs and maybe make some noise in the West? I think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't know if this team can gel together given the tension with Jimmy Butler. I think it's going to be a problem that persists until he leaves that organization.
Yeah, and that brings us to the Denver Nuggets, and we still haven't gotten to a bad team yet. Because the Denver Nuggets, I think the biggest thing they did was re-sign everybody they had last year. They went down to the final game of the season, I think, lost to Minnesota, kept them out of the playoffs. They did add Isaiah Thomas. They drafted Michael Porter, who was a prep phenom, at number 14. So I think every team is a contender to make the playoffs in this league or in this division, Lucas.
For sure. I think Denver will make the playoffs this year. I think they have some quality players on this team, Paul Millsap and the players that you mentioned too. I think the odd one out here probably is Portland. I think Portland could easily finish last in this division this year, but still be close and competing for a playoff spot. So it's great to see all 5 teams really doing well and competing.
Yeah, and I think with the Nuggets, I think the one thing right now that would hurt them, Steve, is their defense. And they haven't finished in the top 10 in defensive rankings since the 2008-2009 season. And they ranked 27th in that category after the 2018 All-Star break. So I think defense is going to tell the tale for Denver.
Yeah, they're not a very big team. I mean, they're built around a lot of 6'4", 6'6" players, and they don't have a lot of height, quality play on that team. So it'll be interesting to see. They've got Trey Lyles, but I haven't really seen a lot out of him to a big degree. So I think it's a young team that's still on its way up the food chain. Gary Harris will become one of the leaders of this basketball team, and they've got a few years to go in front of them. But I think in a couple of years, if Denver keeps building like they're building right now, they will be a team to be reckoned with. But right now, I think they're going to be good. Like you said, if they're in the best division, but that's going to hurt them because I think that they'll struggle to win enough games and put themselves in position to get a good seed in the playoffs.
All right, guys. So in the Northwest Division, Lucas, who do you like?
I am going to go with the Utah Jazz. I think the Jazz, it's going to be, to me, a battle between them and the Thunder. And I think they're going to surprise. And they're going to be a top 3 team this year.
All right, Steve?
In the West.
I'm going to just give it a shot and go with Oklahoma. I think if they get their chemistry together and Paul George gets focused on winning as a team instead of winning as an individual, maybe putting the Lakers thing behind him for a year or two, helps him focus more on just playing team ball and winning where he is. I'm going to go with Oklahoma City. They've got the most talent, I think, of any of the teams. But I think the Jazz have better chemistry, but I think Oklahoma's got more talent.
Yeah, and
I believe the NBA is still a game of talent.
Every game is a game of talent. I'm going to agree with Steve. I'm going to take Oklahoma City. All right, now we go to the Pacific Division. I don't know. Do they call it the Western Division now, or am I still in the old times?
It's Pacific.
Yeah, and we got DeMarcus Cousins. And I think this is the big thing that we don't know. If he returns before the holidays, but either way, will they fit in and will they mesh together? And if they do, Lucas, this is by far the best team then.
Oh, for sure. And, it would be one of the best starting 5s that, in a really long time. I don't know. I don't know if it is going to mesh. I think it's short-lived. I think maybe this season it'll mesh. But then I think changes are coming to Golden State. I think, dynasties are not infinite. And I think eventually players start to, start to put their personal desires into, at the forefront. There was a report this week that Klay Thompson wants a top contract and he's not going to be willing to take a pay cut. So, look, they're going to be, Golden State's the favorite to win this year. There's no one stopping them unless there's an injury that occurs. But I just don't see anyone competing with them. But I think that the dynasty, though, after this season, short-lived.
All right. Well, the Patriots dynasty's went almost 20 years. So the key is, what's more important to these guys? Do you want to win or do you want to make a lot of money? And the thing is, I don't think they realize You can keep making money while you're winning, and they'll be fine. What's your take on Golden State, Steve?
Team does realize you can make a lot of money. This team's focus is winning. I think they realize they're the best team, and they want to keep it that way. I think DeMar becomes an asset in the front office with what they think he's going to be that big of a problem. I just don't think they'd let him in. They don't need him. I mean, he's a luxury to have. There's no doubt. But you look at their first and second units, he's not really needed. If anything, it's going to be where you're going to find him minutes at. But I think Golden State strengthened themselves. I think they're a better team now. I think Kerr will keep DeMarcus in check, and I think the other players will. I liken this a lot like to the mid-'80s Bulls, where Jordan, Robin, and Pittman just kind of made everybody else fall in line, and they kind of policed that stuff themselves. And, you had the Zen Master and Phil Jackson there, but seriously, it was Jordan.
Mid-'90s Bulls.
Mid-'90s, okay. Yeah, you're right, mid-'90s. 80, yeah, all right. I'm older than you. But I think these guys that are already there, take a look at DeMarcus and make sure he doesn't get to be any kind of issue or problem with that team. And I think DeMarcus comes online and makes Golden State stronger. I think he just solidifies the fact that they're untouchable in the West at this point in time.
All right, next up we get the Los Angeles Lakers, who picked up LeBron James. And when I look at this team, Lucas, the thing that stands out to me is four guys, and that's Rondo, Stevenson, Beasley, and McGee. I think these are four players with well-documented, I don't know, for lack of a better term, quirks. If they could get these four guys to fit in here, especially Beasley, who I think remains an unrealized talent, this team could challenge Golden State.
Yeah, I think that they're 1 year away from being that team that could knock off Golden State. I do agree with you, and I think LeBron has a better supporting cast now than he did, let's say at Cleveland last year. But I think that the Lakers will make the playoffs. I think, LeBron is too good of a player, and yet too good of a supporting cast around him not to make the playoffs. But they're a team that's going to be knocked out first round, maybe at max second round. They just don't have the other superstars to coordinate with LeBron James at this point in time to really make a run at a championship. They're 1 year away. I think next off season, get ready for them for Magic Johnson and his management team to make a splash in a player. But they have a great supporting cast now, and let's see. I mean, with LeBron, expect the unexpected, but I do like their supporting cast.
All right, Steve.
This is a team that, to me, is just – I don't think there's going to be enough basketball to go around on this team. As much as I think that the Golden State Warriors are cohesive, I think the Lakers are going to be uncohesive. I look at some of the egos here. Lance Stevenson, Lonzo Ball. Kuzma's made a name for himself. Not that Kuzma's a big ego problem, but just, he put himself on an upper echelon. How much time is LeBron going to want to play? How much of the ball is he going to want in his hand? Brandon Ingram. I see a lot of guys who like to be the top dog. I think Lonzo Ball is overrated as a point guard. I don't think he's ever going to be as good as his hype is. He'll be good, but I think the Lakers will be good. I think they'll finish high in the division. I think LeBron will carry them to that point, but I don't think that they're the second or third best team in the West.
All
and
right.
I think that they will not be a threat past the first round in the playoffs.
Well, see, everything you've always told me before was they were going to play in the Western Conference Finals against Golden State. So now, since Lucas has told you the way it is, you've backed off of that. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, no problem. I'm entitled to change my mind.
No, you're not. All right, next up, the L.A. Clippers. There's another team in L.A., Steve. Does anybody realize it?
Not anymore. That's an enigma franchise right there for the last 5 or 6 years. Had a lot of talent on that basketball team, and they seem to have gotten rid of pretty much all of it. But I can't even know if I could name one of the guys that's starting on this team this year than started last year. When I first moved out to Los Angeles, of course, one of my teammates is one of the assistant coaches of the Clippers, and so I followed the Clippers closer than anybody, and this team has changed face so much. I don't understand what they're doing. But this is a team that had the opportunity to really own Los Angeles the last 5 years and didn't capitalize or take advantage of it at all. I think retaining Doc Rivers is not a good move. I don't think he's a good fit for this organization. He hasn't proven well. He's kind of, not done anything but talk a lot, and I don't see anything out of the Clippers at all.
All right, next up we get the Phoenix Suns, who are probably better than, or not as good as the LA Clippers either. There's no proven NBA point guard on this roster, Lucas.
Yeah, the Phoenix Suns are going to be, again, the basement of the league. I think this is a team that trending downwards, no real star power on this team, really. They lost P.J. Tucker, I believe. And, they're going to be fighting for the lottery and hoping to get a high draft pick to try to continue this rebuild.
So the question what? Go ahead.
The big question about Phoenix Suns is, and DeAndre Ayton, how much of a pay cut did he have to turn professional?
A lot. Unless Nike or whoever controls him paid, a team to draft him.
Yeah, they may have, but I think this young man took a huge pay cut to go to the Phoenix Suns and turn professional. Maybe he should have stayed in college and making more money and playing less games.
And probably playing with better talent around him. That brings us to the field. Who am I left with here? I got the
funny.
Sacramento
that was
Kings.
A good one.
The Sacramento Kings.
Oh, my God.
They suck. I mean, they're going to get the number one pick, or they'll be the worst. I think they're the worst team in the NBA. Is that the safe thing to say, Lucas?
That's that's understating how bad that they are. I think there's an embarrassment. I think.
Okay. That's
just me. I mean,
there's not much to say because they don't have that many NBA players on their team. And the bad thing is, I don't think they've been in a playoff since the mid-2000s. So it's been over a decade in a league where half the teams make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it was when they had Mike Bibby on their team. Was the last time they made the playoffs.
Yeah, and see, Henry Bibby played for the 76ers in the 70s, and me and Steve used to watch him. I just figured I'd bring that up because there's nothing to talk about with the Kings. All right, NBA Finals. Who's in it? Who wins it? Lucas.
I'm gonna make bold prediction. I'm gonna say Golden State, Toronto Raptors.
That's a homer pick. How dare you? Toronto ain't going to the NBA Finals. Jeez.
Well, I just want to add some difference because I think the generic pick is Boston Golden State, which would be a great final, I think. But I don't know. I just think that the Raptors with their bench, they may get lucky with a Boston injury, and who knows? They're in the NBA Finals. But no one's beating Golden State. I think that Golden State's a team that they're too good at the moment. If they're healthy all the way through, they'll win the championship. So I'm going to say Warriors in 5.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Warriors and Celtics. I think that you got to go with the two obvious teams. I think that in the East, Boston is a full notch ahead of everybody else. And I think Golden State's 2 notches ahead of everybody in the West. You're right. Lucas is right. Injuries can't occur, but I think you can't bank on that happening. And if everybody stays healthy, they're the 2 best teams in the league. And I think it'd be a heck of a finals. I think Golden State still is a stronger team. They get 2 well-coached basketball teams. But, yeah, I'd say Golden State over the Celtics in an epic battle.
All right. I'm going to take Boston over Golden State, and I think the Eastern Conference Finals will be Boston, Indiana. I think the Western Conference Finals will be Oklahoma City and Golden State. And I wouldn't be surprised because I almost just picked Oklahoma City against Indiana. just to be different. But then when Steve picked Golden State to beat Boston, I figured, oh, let's go Boston because that's different. So there you go. Lucas, I appreciate you coming on. I apologize for Steve's use of the English language, and hope to have you back on sometime. And hey, Lucas, do you guys do a golf show that I'll remember to post today?
We definitely do. Steve Risley and I do a golf show on the Grueling Truth. Really depends on if Mike Goodpaster just posts it or not. But we do.
I never got reminded. Show. I have to be reminded because of all the significant brain damage I've suffered in my life.
No, of course, playing that crazy game of football that we all love.
Basically, it's my wife. Don't tell anybody, though, because I don't want her to get in trouble. Because if they find out, then, she'll beat me worse.
Yeah. But, yeah, we do have a golf show. Steve Risley and I are the co-hosts, and there's, a lot to talk about. But go to the golf show if you're a golf fan, the Grueling Truth Sports Network.
And that show will be up tomorrow morning. I promise.
Great.
Steve, I'm going to ask you if you have any final comments, but it's going to be held to 30 seconds.
No final comments.
Oh, now he's mad. Jeez.
No,
all right.
No.
He always feels threatened when Lucas is on because Lucas knows how to say revered.
Listen, I'll be the first to tell you guys, I'm not a big fan of the NBA.
I thought you were going to say words. I thought you were going to say I'm not a big fan of words, but go ahead.
No, I'm just not a big fan of the NBA. I don't care much for the league or the sport or anything. I mean, it's there. We got to talk about it.
So you don't like the sport of basketball?
I don't like the sport of professional basketball. Oh. I love college basketball.
Wait a second. When did college basketball become not professional?
You're right. Bad choice of words on my part. Sorry. I retract that statement.
Okay.
I like the involvement of the school spirit and the
you like the perceived
amateurism. The perceived amateurism, sure.
Yeah.
Call it that.
There you go.
But I just think that there's too many games in the NBA. The kids that are playing play too many games. They don't put their heart and soul into every game. It's too expensive to go watch a game for a family of four. It's marketed one direction and paid for by another direction. And to me, it's just, it's out there in front of me. I watch probably fewer NBA games than any other sporting event, including the Iditarod every year.
No, you don't. You don't watch the Iditarod. If you watched the Iditarod, you'd have known it was in Alaska.
I knew it was in Alaska.
No, you didn't, because you're the one that started this. You're the one that hired Lucas under his scam Canadian Iditarod.
Okay.
All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up. Make sure you check out all the shows on thegruelingtruth.net, including Lucas and Steve's golf show. You can check out the Indiana Basketball Weekly with myself, Steve Risley, Colin Hartman, the NFL Weekly Pick'em Show, the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show. You can pick everything, including your nose, at The Grueling Truth. So remember, you can hear all of our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Montgomery Ward. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Lukas Weese, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.